So what is the most overrated aspect of each Persona game? Now, the Persona games are all fantastic. They all bring a certain charm to the table that I don't see within the other games. It's absolutely fantastic for a franchise to do. You have a reason to play all of them. But as much as I love the Persona games, I do not like the Persona fandom in some ways, especially the opinions they have. Sometimes when I see some of these opinions, I'm completely baffled. Of course, I still respect the opinions. We all have our different ways of experiencing games, so I never judge, but they're just a little bit odd to me. So then I wanted to make a video talking about what I think is the most overrated aspect of each Persona game, and some things that I don't really know why people praise within some of these games. But let me know what you think. If you disagree, please let me know why. I'll try to give out my best reasoning, so even though if you disagree with me, you can still understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to waste more of your time. Let's get started with the video. So the first segment of the video I'm going to try to make pretty short. Persona 1 and 2 don't really have a big fan base in this community, so I can't really pinpoint what's overrated within them. Everything that gets praised within them honestly deserves the praise, and I don't want to kick down a game that already barely gets any praise. Persona 1 specifically, I really don't think any part of it's overrated. I think people really honestly are too harsh on the game. I think some parts of it are more underrated than overrated. I like every aspect of this game that I have played, and the aspects that people don't like are talked about enough, so I don't need to get into them here either. So I'll be completely skipping Persona 1. I just don't believe there's any overrated aspects in that game. Now I'll be combining the innocent sin and eternal punishment aspect because I believe what I'm going to talk about is a bit connected to both of them. What I think is overrated in those games is Maya as a character. Now I do enjoy Maya, especially in innocent sin. I really was looking forward to her character in eternal punishment because I liked the way she was being built up. But after playing eternal punishment, I gotta say I was extremely disappointed in her character. Innocent sin, there was a lot of cool things that was being built up for her, and I loved seeing all of that. But after Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment, she really just felt like a blank state and didn't really have any of the build-up from Innocent Sin to help her, which was extremely disappointing to me because, like I said, I was looking forward to her character in Eternal Punishment. Innocent Sin, she was like literally one of my favorite characters in the entire game. Now, all Persona main characters are self-insert, so I'm not saying, oh, Maya's self-insert, so that makes her bad, but all of them usually have at least a few defining character moments that make them stand out. For example, Tatsu in Innocent Sin is probably the best protagonist. I love his character. He has a lot of development, even if he is a silent MC. His backstory is very fleshed out. He has a lot of great interactions with the characters that you get to see his personality, even if he doesn't talk. You don't need the character to speak for them to be able to create a connection with them. And I thought Maya would be able to have this too, since she was a character in a sense. She had dialogue, everything. But Eternal Punishment is like they took away everything that made her Maya and they just made her a self-insert character. And that's the one thing I found disappointing in Persona 2. Overall, I really like the game. It's my second favorite Persona game. But Eternal Punishment especially really disappointed me with Maya, so that's why I'm going to put her on here. Next about Persona 3, and I want to say for the Persona 3 section, I will be talking about spoilers, so if you just want to just skip this part or just skip the video and come back to it later, or if you want to just go to the Persona 4 section, go ahead, but there will be spoilers for Persona 3 here. Now, Persona 3, what I think is the most over aspect of it is the story. I hear a lot of people say that Persona 3 has the best story in the franchise, and I'll be honest, I don't really see that. Do I think the story is good? Of course, I think it's a good story. I think all Persona games have a good story. But for me, Persona 3 is not even a top 3 story in Persona. I think Persona 5 Royale, Persona 2 Innocent Sin, and Persona 2 Eternal Punishment all have better stories than Persona 3. But let's get into why I think that. Now, Persona 3 has an awesome concept and a lot of set pieces, so I can understand why people say that it has the best story, but I believe that in execution it kind of fails in some aspects. Like, Persona 3 by far has the slowest progression in the entire franchise, and slow doesn't necessarily mean bad, but I think Persona 3 doesn't develop its plot in a well-paced manner. For example, I believe until Shinjuru's death, it's just a very repetitive cycle of fighting the moon bosses, and the moon bosses don't really offer much. There's a lot of plot lines that start that feel completely abandoned. For example, Junpei's jealousy of Makoto honestly felt nowhere. I was very excited for that plot line, but he just kind of abandoned it one day without a big arc, without a confrontation, without anything like that, which is kind of disappointing for me. And I just don't believe the moon events bring you enough variety for the first half of the game for me to feel engaged with the story, because outside of that, not much else happens. I believe with Shinjuru's death is when you first start to see the good plot of Persona 3 come out. And it's not only within the pacing of the story. I believe there's a lot of things in Persona 3 that could have just been handled a lot better that are connected to the story. For example, Strega is just one of the most bland villain groups in the entire franchise. And there's a lot of bland villains in Persona, but Strega just takes it to a whole other level. And Persona 3 Reload tried to fix that by giving Takaya some more backstory or some time more spent with Yuki. But again, it didn't really do much. Honestly, I felt like the scenes they spent together was completely wasted because it didn't change any of the main interactions they had. So I was kind of confused about why the interactions were even added. So even though Reload tried to fix the Strega, it really didn't do anything. The only worthwhile member of Strega is Chidori, and she has always been good. Reload didn't make her any better. So I believe the wasted characters, the bad pacing really just brings down Persona 3 for me. Now, everyone that likes this game, I'm happy you like it. I like it too. I think it's a good game, but I do believe the story is overrated because it does have a lot of things in it that I personally don't like. But let me know what you think about my reasoning. So next up, I have Persona 4. Now, this one might be even more controversial than the last one because people say it's the best part about Persona 4. And what I think is overrated in Persona 4 is the cast. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't mean the cast chemistry. I do think the cast chemistry is probably one of the best in the Persona franchise, if not the best. But I'm talking about the cast as in the individual characters. I don't really find them as compelling as some other people say. I think Persona 5, Persona 3, and Persona 2 all have a better overall cast than Persona 4. If we're talking main cast, I think if you throw in side cast and villain cast, Persona 4 has a better argument. I think would be better than at least Persona 3 and 2. I don't know about 5, but I think would be there. But what I'm talking about is the individual characters in the main cast that I believe are a bit overrated. Now, I know Persona 4 has a very beloved cast, so I'll try to do my best to explain why I think this. Number one reason for this is I believe that Persona 4 has arguably the best awakenings in the series. I think the concept behind the awakenings is super cool. I think the only game you could argue having a better awakening is Persona 5. Now, these awakenings being fantastic in Persona 4 also have a negative side to them. I believe the characters of Persona 4, for the most part, don't really go anywhere after their awakening. And this really makes characters suffer that get introduced towards the beginning because their arc just doesn't go anywhere for the rest of the 50-hour, 40-hour, however long you take on the game, which can be disappointing. For example, social links in Persona 4 just kind of retell the same thing as the awakening, which I find to be disappointing. Sure, you get more perspectives about the conflict, which is nice, but I don't want to see the same conflict I saw in the awakening in the social link because it just feels more of the same. And I don't really feel this with the Persona 5 cast. With the Persona 5 cast, I believe their social link is almost completely different conflict than their awakening, which makes them more compelling. Now, I want to say this, I don't think every Persona 4 main character suffers from this. I believe that Kanji and Nato still continue to develop after their awakening. But I believe some characters do really suffer from this. For example, Chie and Yukiko. I can't really say I cared for them for the entirety of Persona 4 besides their awakening. I try to do their social links. Every time I replay, I try to get invested in their characters. But I just don't really believe their character goes anywhere after the awakening. So I just don't really understand the hype with the Persona 4 cast. Especially when I believe that Persona 5, Persona 3, and Persona 2 all have a better overall main cast. So even though I think the Persona 4 cast is very good, they have a very great cast chemistry, especially arguably the best in the franchise. I believe as individual characters, some of them do fall behind, but there are still some fantastic characters in the investigation team. Next up, we have Persona 5, and I'm being so honest when I say this, Persona 5 was the easiest to come up with, especially with Persona 5 Royale, and by far the most overrated section of Persona 5 Royale is the first arc, the Kamoshida arc. The fact people say that Persona 5 falls off after this arc is generally like so stupid to me. I don't have a word in the English language to describe how stupid that is. This arc is a very good introduction arc. I don't want to say that it's not a good introduction arc, but in the grand scheme and in all of the story of Persona 5, this arc is genuinely not a top 5 arc or palace within the entire game. First of all, I get it's a tutorial palace. I get it. It makes sense. It's a tutorial palace, but it's so slow paced that it's actually crazy. The whole palace is super scripted. You can't enjoy exploration. You can't enjoy social links without the game interrupting you, telling you to go, oh, go buy a gun, go into the palace, go do this. Which one of my favorite parts of Persona 5 is the amount of freedom you have to do whatever you want, whenever you want. You can do the pass whenever you want. You can do social links whenever you want. You have so much freedom, and the first pass complete takes that away from you. And one argument I see people using for this palace being the best palace and Persona 5 falling off after this point is the fact that they say, oh, the Phantom Thieves all had a connection to Kamoshida, so the stakes felt higher. Yes, that's true. You could argue it's better than something like Madarame or Kaneshiro or Okumura, because only one member of the palace has a connection to them. But this dungeon has no build up. Let's look at someone like Shido's. That has literally been built up for the entire game. And all the Phantom Thieves want to help Joker get revenge for his past. And all of their futures are on the line. It's not just Jokers. You have someone like Yaldabaoth. Again, built up the entire game with the Velvet Room. Then obviously Moruki, the best palace. Every member of the Phantom Thieves has a connection to him. Because they've all talked to him. And that's the entire point. He's connecting to them emotionally because they all know him. Even Nijima's. Makoto, it's been built up so much. With Akechi joining, all these palaces have so much build up. Kamoshida just does not have this level of build up. This palace is way too scripted. I just do not understand how people say Persona 5 falls off after this point. This is one of the worst palaces in the entire game. Not that it's bad, that's just how good Persona 5 passes are. They're all fantastic arcs, but this one is definitely not one of the best ones, and I do not understand how people can say it is. Well, that's it for me. Let me know what aspect of the Persona games that you find overrated, and I have a few other Persona videos and Metaphor videos on this page, so if you're interested in my videos, please check those out. And for everyone that enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you like and subscribe, and thank you to everyone that watched. And again, let me know your opinions, let me know if you disagree with me. I'd love to have discussions with you all in the comments.